This is Getting Past Subtitles. My name is Sean Peel.
And I'm DK Lee.
And we're back. Welcome back, Lee. No one knows, but...
back? What do you mean? I was here the whole time. Where were you?
I've been here the whole time. What are you talking about?
I'm not sure about that.
No, I've been out and about, I guess. I've been enjoying summer vacation. Not these days when it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah. Wasn't it hot in Florida?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 100, definitely.
Really?
But it's like I lived in Florida for a while, but I've been here for a little while up north, and I'm like no longer used to the humidity. Because as soon as I get there, I'm like, this is a different kind of heat.
Yeah.
I don't like this anymore.
It's a lot of heat.
And then I come up here, I'm like, it's hot, but it's not like that kind of hot.
Yeah.
So, not like the other day. Remember when did you guys get a bunch of rain?
Yeah.
And then outside it was like cracked humid.
Yeah.
I was like, this is no bueno.
Even yesterday was really humid.
Yeah.
And hot. And it rained in the middle of the day.
And it floods easily here too. That's like the
No, it
worst part.
floods like crazy.
Oh,
yeah.
it's so bad. But
anyways.
that's summer for you.
Yeah.
Anyway. But it's been good. Yeah. We're back. Took a little bit of a hiatus, although you probably won't know because we got enough episodes kind of lined up to keep it going. But we are starting afresh, a new series, that is. And this one's a little different, actually. This may not be for everybody per se. This feels like more niche than the niche that we are already. You know?
This is for everybody. What are you talking about? This
is for all like the film students and the film heads and the people that were born in the 1940s.
Well, this movie in particular is like an old movie, so maybe,
right.
But some of the other ones aren't that.
Yeah, there's one that's like brand new, right?
Yeah,
it's like
there's one that's really quite new, not like brand new, but
like last year new.
Yeah,
like
a year or two. Yeah.
So black and white movies are still around.
Yeah,
for sure. That is the theme for the series. It's,
yeah, it's like an aesthetic choice, I think, now more than ever.
Right.
Like back then, it was
all you had.
all you had, so that's how you had to shoot it. But now, I think a lot of people actually use black and white to shoot their films for whatever reason. You know, like if there's a reason, a film like a story reason to use black and white.
Right.
I've seen directors do that. And one of the films that we're going to watch is, the one that he just talked about is, it's a recent film. So obviously they had the technology to do
whatever
color.
they want. Yeah.
But he chose to do it in black and white. And maybe we can talk about later if that was a good choice or not. And then talk about, how that added to the movie.
Right.
But even when we watched, I think it was Sympathy.
Well, there was two there was Sympathy for Lady Vengeance. But that was like, well, yeah, it was black and white, and then it was in color.
Yeah,
and then it faded to black and white. And then,
but even that, like, it's a stylistic choice that he made, and you said that you felt like it was the better option, right?
Definitely, yeah.
So
it really supported just like the story and like the progress of the plot and like the character 100%.
Yeah.
So, and then we also watched that other Christmas movie too.
Yep.
That was in black and white. That was also a very recent movie as well. Or I mean, it's a more modern film.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But even that felt good in black and white.
Yeah.
It definitely, after a while, you don't really question it, right?
Yeah.
It just kind of like becomes part of the movie and what you're watching. Like at a certain point, it's funny to watch and you're like, oh, I don't really care about color anymore. Like it's not kind of in your mind,
Yeah. Like certain movies, I feel like color really adds to it, right?
Sure.
And other movies, you don't really think about it too much.
Right.
Like it's not like a thing that stands out per se. But when it does, like when you watched the Chinese movie, I forget what it was called. Was it not Hero? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm trying to remember.
I forgot.
Yeah,
well,
we've
I
done too
forget
many
the name.
movies on
There's so many movies that I
We've done
like
too many
blanked
movies
out
on
on
this
the
podcast.
on the name, but
Was it always black and white, or was it?
no. It's
just a
the
part?
one in color.
Oh, the one in
like
color?
the one with a lot of color.
Oh, not Hero.
Uh,
The other colorful one? I don't really remember.
yeah, the one with the assassins, and Tony Leung and Michelle Yeoh played assassins. Remember? The lovers. The in red was like for the lovers, and
That's Hero.
was that Hero?
That's Hero.
Am I?
Bro, you're going crazy right now.
I'm going crazy. It was
Bro,
Hero.
What are you?
Okay, I'm not going crazy. So
You
it
have
was
me
Hero.
like you're describing Hero, but it's not
Wait.
Hero. I'm not. What's going on?
No, I'm like blanking out. Yeah, no, because I was thinking of the scene with Jet Li and that part,
Yeah.
that like shot with the when he gets shot in the door.
Yeah,
has
yeah.
like no color.
No.
Well, it's like
But it's all black.
It's all
Well,
black.
yeah,
Is what I'm saying.
in the scene.
Yeah, and the green like
Yeah, yeah.
for the
And that's like the
king,
past.
the emperor, like in the past.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that one has a lot of color and wow.
But like purposeful. Yeah.
Yeah, but it really adds to the storytelling
Right. Right.
of the movie. Wow, I completely
Where is it? Where-
separated the parts of the movies and thought that was not part of Hero for some reason. It was some other movie
Two different
that I was
scenes are
thinking
like-
about.
Oh man.
I think I was thinking about like Crouching Tiger. Maybe that's why. Like,
Oh,
it,
okay. Yeah.
Anyways,
That's fine. That's fair.
Anyways, yeah. Aesthetically, the colors really adds to the story for Hero.
Right.
But like other movies that are not as focused on like emphasizing the color,
Yeah.
it kind of just becomes part of the
world,
the
yeah.
world aesthetic and the mise en scène. So in that sense, like it's pretty cool to see how like black and white works and how like adding like emphasis in color works, and also just like
Right.
none of that and just like it is just what it is.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
that's just like how it was. Just as like what that's just what you're watching. That's how it was
Right,
made.
right.
Even like you haven't seen the new Thor movie, Love and Thunder.
No, and I don't know if I want to watch it either.
It's not bad.
But I heard,
Good.
yeah, well, I mean, just judging from like the trailers too, that has a lot of color and stuff too.
Yeah, but there's a black and white scene in there as well. That's
Oh,
like
the one with like gore.
Yep.
in it,
Yeah. There's like it's like a setting, and then once they like move into like this part of the world, everything like color is desaturated, like it's all turns black and white. So it's like part of like the world in the movie, So it's kind of interesting to see it. Like the use of color, it can be a tool in numerous ways, and like that's kind of another way you can use it in the story.
Yeah.
In that sense. So
But going back to our film here,
what were we watching again?
it is completely black and white. And in this movie, I do not think that they had a choice.
This is
to
all that
do
they
black
got.
and white. It's just what they had. It was filmed in 1948, I'm pretty sure, and it's called Spring in a Small Town by Fei Mu, right?
Fei Mu.
Fei Mu.
Yeah. And written by Lee Tianji.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I read that like the script was written like almost 2 years before they actually made it, and like I forget what his name, but basically somebody else was with Lee Tianji to write the screenplay, and they basically like shopped it around a couple of like the film commissions around, and nobody wanted it until I forgot the commission that made this. They ended up wanting to do it, and then they pitched it to like Fei Mu, who actually didn't even really like look at the screenplay for a little while. But it took like a year and a half for them to kind of get it in the process of written and then being made, and then took like I think they filmed it in like 3 months or something.
Yeah.
And during that, they went through like a lot of like Fei Mu, like I said, he like barely even like looked at the script, and they changed quite a lot of things. But even for that time, like like political films were a huge thing, and like a lot of kind of what
Propagandistic films
Right,
were
right.
very big.
and just like a lot of what dictated sort of like the story and the script and stuff was like for political reasons.
Yeah.
But this movie in particular really, I think, just didn't abide by a lot of that stuff at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a key note about this movie that really separated it from the rest for its time anyway. And there's a few other things too, like the wife, Yuwen, like a lot of what she does, especially like the narration on her part, like a lot of that was very different from movies.
Yeah, I mean it's very female centric, right? It's
Right.
like very
Right.
female centric, especially in that time, and it's very sympathetic towards like
Towards her, yeah.
her character, which is not very like
Yeah.
it's not during that time. A lot of movies didn't really do that, right?
Right. It's
Especially
very
with the
controversial.
voiceovers and stuff like that they utilized to kind of put ourselves in her shoes and
She was
be with
definitely
the
the
character.
like protagonist, you can say, right? She was
Right.
definitely the one that was leading it.
Yeah.
But like I said, the biggest thing is like being sympathetic for her, despite like there's kind of an affair going on, you know? Like although like maybe that her and Zhao were sort of doing something immoral, the portrayal that we see them in is not negative, you know? It's like I said, it's kind of like sympathetic, and it's more of like seeing her sort of like internal process and like emotions versus anything else. So kind of a 180 thing for that time, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting. So the movie is sort of set in the backdrop of the Second Sino-Japanese War, I believe, and like his house obviously gets destroyed from like the aftermath of the war, and so there's a lot of like the political stuff and is kind of like in the backdrop of the movie, and it kind of comes up like as what's that word I'm looking for? Just like as like background story, you know. But like mainly what we watch is mainly just kind of like just a drama in general, you know.
Yeah, like the relationships between the characters
Exactly.
and their problems.
But it's actually like that. Like I kind of didn't pick it up the first time, but for the husband, Dai Lien, so he's like sick, right? Like tuberculosis, maybe. His wife thinks that it's something kind of like neurotic focused. But like he's basically like sick, but also like depressed, and they kind of go hand in hand a little bit.
Yeah.
And because of like it's his house, his estate that was destroyed because of the war. It's like a lot of that is the reason why he's like isolated, and he's like his family's in shambles, and he's like losing the marriage with his wife, you know?
And he also feels inadequate.
Right. But a lot of that kind of comes up throughout the movie, and it's kind of said, but it's never like, you know, it's not really centered around that, you know? So it was pretty interesting to be like picking up the pieces of like, why is he actually sick, you know? It's like figuring that out. So yeah, pretty an interesting movie the more I kind of looked at it. I think overall I enjoyed it. I'm always kind of like fascinated by like older films, like very early films, especially how they have like a very like lack of resources back then, right? So it's like, what did they like? What kind of stories are they telling? You know, like how are they telling it, and like how are they kind of putting it together? So I'm always like watching it with like a perspective on that of like, okay, so we're doing like sort of like an affair sort of drama, you know, that's something that's like low budget, like there's only 5 characters, everything takes place in the house, you know, and like what I'm really watching is like how are they developing the drama sort of like throughout the story, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what I always look for with classic films per se. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, I really appreciated the fact that I think you kind of mentioned it too, but they really didn't have much money for this movie, and yeah, like they shot it all in basically one location, and they only have 5 actors, right?
Yep.
And it's a very kind of contained film in itself,
Right.
and as a filmmaker and just anyone who wants to learn to make filmmaking, I think this is a great movie to watch to learn like how to utilize the camera, how to move the camera to tell the story, and lighting as well. There's beautiful lighting in this movie as well, and just like it doesn't have to be this big crazy thing. It can really be something small, but as long as you bring the emotion and you can also bring like a sense of like the audience caring for these characters,
Right.
I think you can make a pretty compelling movie, and I think that this movie kind of shows that.
Right.
And so that was pretty cool watching it. I while I was watching it too, I learned a lot, you know, and like some of the creative ways that they place the camera, but and also like move the camera, and doing that. Yeah, like watching that and seeing it really made it more enjoyable for me personally.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of kind of like points that I kind of want to get to. Were you okay? Were you invested in any particular character? You would say anybody that kind of stood out for you?
To be honest, not like particularly.
Right.
I mean, the main like character, I guess, Yuwen was probably the most. Yeah, but even her, I was kind of like, like her actions and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Were kind of like kind of weird for me, but overall, I could understand the sentiment.
Yeah.
I think the way that they express their emotions or like their desires is very different from how like, you know, we, you know, express our like desires or like our emotions and how we express them, right?
Right.
So I think it was more of a difference in that rather than like,
yeah,
you know, anything else.
There's a lot of like the classic like gaze away.
Yeah, like stuff like that. Or also like, you know, she like hands him like the thermos or whatever.
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah.
You know,
He's
to
like
care for her and like whatever. And he also is like, and like, you know, like a lot of the like opening the door and then, like, closing the door and keeping her inside and like locked up or whatever. And
that whole scene where just like he picks her up and he's like, no, and then he puts her down.
Yeah, very like exaggerated things of like how they're trying to show that like they have this temptation and they have this struggle and they're trying to fight this temptation and stuff like that. But it's very, you know, over dramatic. Yeah, dramatic.
Well, that's actually one of the main points that I wanted to mention too. It's like I'm always fascinated by that of like how they don't really like telling the story. They don't really care of like being over dramatic, or it's like it's very like unbashful like acting. But
I also think that they have a bit of like influence from like theater, right? Because
I mean, the director comes from a theater background as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I'm saying like because even back, you know, 1948, it's not, you know, film hasn't been, you know, out that long, especially, you know, in China. I think it hasn't been something that's been like very, very explored, you know, in that time. So a lot of theatrical, you know, influences are bound to be there.
Right.
And, you know, you can see it very much in this movie. Even like just the fact that it's like 5 characters in one place. And it's a perfect like setting to make it theatrical in that way. But even despite that, I think that they use the camera very well in terms of like the placement and what to show and what not to show and how they move the camera. Like there are a lot of things that I was very happy to see in the movie that kind of like added to the story, even in subtle ways that maybe like some people don't really think about consciously, but like if you really kind of look into it, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's like reasons behind like what you're watching, like why that shot is there and the shot is there.
Yeah,
I think like the biggest scene for me on that point is the boat riding scene when they're kind of, so like Zhao's already been there for a while, right? And then he's like encouraging Liang to kind of like go outside and like be a little more active because he's like sick and he's like, you know, basically like stay at home and stuff. And so they go out like a couple of days and then they're like having a good time and they go out to this boat ride. But then it's like him, or it's like Zhao and then Yuwen in the back of the boat.
Yeah.
And Lian and his sister, they're like singing in the front. And it's like the duality of like them having a good time, like singing, and then it's like them two in the back that are just like looking at each other, but then like refusing to like make eye contact. And it's like you get the sense of like, you know, they feel guilty sort of in the moment during that like family time, you know? So
yeah, like there's also that moment the night of, I think, when he first arrives and the little sister is singing and Jia Chen, is that his name? The friend.
Yeah.
He's basically like turned around. His back is away from the little sister who's singing,
Yeah.
and he's like looking, like staring at Yuwen,
Yeah.
Yuwen,
Yuwen.
and it's pretty cool because the camera first is on the three characters: the little sister, the best friend, and
Yeah.
Yuwen, and then the camera pans to the left,
Yeah.
and then we see that the husband is actually there, and it's like a subtle reveal that the husband's actually there, and he's looking at basically all of them.
Yeah, like
and then it like
family.
pans back to the three characters, and they kind of like moves. It dollies back out, and we get all the four characters, and you can kind of see the scene kind of unraveling before us, and you can clearly tell like the dichotomy between all the different characters, like especially the husband and his best friend, and
Right.
where their gaze is at and what they're concerned about. And there's like no dialogue there,
Right.
but you can clearly see like what the conflict is in the scene, and,
Right,
and
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's such a brilliant way of kind of creating that moment between all the character, because even the little sister likes the best friend, and like she's trying to get his attention,
Yeah.
and he's constantly just like looking at the other at Yuwen.
Right. Yuwen.
So
So sketch.
it's kind of funny, and it's really well staged in that way, to really create that tension in that scene.
There's a lot of that that's like you really find that it's easy to comprehend like what the scene is trying to convey, or like what is like the motivation behind it. With like that, like clearly it portrays like Lian's position versus like Zishan's relationship with his wife and sister.
Yeah.
Or like for me, the little sister's 16th birthday party, when they're all like drinking and having fun, and then like Lian goes to play with Zishan. They're playing like rock paper scissors and like hand games.
Yeah.
And then he like tries to drink, but his wife stops him from drinking.
No.
You know, yeah. And he's like, "Damn." But then his wife Yuwen steps in and then decides to play a game with Zishan, but like a game from their own childhood, and like a game that not even like Yin is familiar with. And like in that scene, he gets just like exiled, but he's like right there in the middle between them, and it's like framed that it's like he's in the back, and you can clearly see that he's like
Pushed out of the
Yeah.
scene, basically.
exactly like literally he gets up in the middle of them playing,
Yeah,
and then
and leaves.
removes himself
Yeah.
into another room.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like you clearly kind of understand what's going on without it having to kind of like be explained, or even without it being like natural per se, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
he's not like trying to like dip out of that that area, or like
Right.
like putting on a facade that he's enjoying it, but we don't know. Like it's just clearly like he's
Yeah.
not having a good time.
Yeah, it's like that layer of subtext that you can clearly feel, right?
Right.
Through the scene and through the way that it's staged and how the camera moves and all that really helps like advance the story and the feelings that you have for all the characters.
Yeah. The whole little sister getting with Zhao was kind of sketch. Oh, that was funny. I mean, for the time, but like,
Yeah.
even the way that it was like in the movie, he was like, Lian was like, who would be a great match? It would be like my best friend, and the wife was like, what?
What?
Can you help me out?
I'm the best match. What are you talking about?
And he was trying to rope her into it, and she was like, I don't want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
What? No, you're talking crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Or even like when they're together, and like the sister, I swear the sister is in so many scenes where like there's stuff going on between Yuwen and Zishan, like
Yeah.
in front of her, and she's just like, la da 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 da.
I think by the end of it, she kind of like catches on.
Yeah, definitely by the end.
But it's like, yeah, she's
yeah.
pretty.
It's very like
happy-go-lucky the whole time.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's like theatrics.
Mm.
So, like when they all take a walk outside. Like this is when Zishan like comes to town in the beginning.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, let's go out to town. Like you haven't seen the town in a while. And they all like walk aimlessly, as she explains. And then like Leanne is like turns around, looks somewhere else, and Yuwen is like holding the little sister's hand, and then Zishen like takes the opportunity to hold her hand when he looks away, but the sister's like, "How do you not see that?"
Yeah.
And he like removes his hand when he turns back.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Like a lot of the affectionate moments are very like, how do you say, like just very obvious,
Blatant,
like blatant,
like...
yeah. and it's very, like we said, like dramatic, right?
Right.
Even the way that she approaches the best friend, and like she comes at nighttime,
Right.
and she has that like thing, like the
like
she like
veil.
plays the veil and stuff,
yeah.
and like she's trying to like seduce him in a way, right? It's very like theatrical in that way.
Right. That's a very good scene, though. Actually, that was a nice scene.
And I like the lighting of like a lot of the scenes during the night where, like when she comes in, and it's like bright, like everything's lit, and like she turns off the light, and you just see the backlight on his head, and then
it's just like...
they like come closer, and then like everything's lit in a way that really adds to the story, I think.
Right.
And it's really well thought out.
It's very like you can't like see it explicitly what's going on, but like it's like you kind of see enough that you like can kind of follow them a little bit.
And
but
since it's black and white, I think you really
even more
think about more of how it's lit, the lighting situation on it.
Right.
And I think it's really like all the scenes are very beautifully lit in that regard.
They stayed. This is like what I was saying earlier too. Is like I felt like the version that I saw wasn't the best. Like some of the outdoor scenes were like just so overexposed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It just felt like blanket of white.
Oh,
I was like,
really?
Seems like not a good iteration of this per se. Because there's a lot of shots and stuff of like him sitting outside of the wall or like looking out over like the hill or whatever. Yeah.
That was a pretty cool location, I think, like that wall location.
Right.
Where, they go for a walk a lot of times, and it's just like
broken down wall.
Broken like you're not even sure if it is a wall. It's just like
a pile of rubble.
Pile of rubble everywhere. I thought they just call it a wall.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool to just see that. And
when I was like reading and just like kind of looking for information about the movie, there's a lot of like, for critics and stuff, I think a lot of comparisons of like the wall is a big motif in the movie for like multiple things, but a lot of like even just the family of, like the wall is like supposed to be like protection and safety, and then like now that it's like left destroyed and kind of like rubbish, like a lot of the family stuff are like in doubt, like especially with the wife. Like a lot of it was what you see with Leanne is like he tries to like rebuild the wall like literally, right? But it's like very much unable to do so in its condition. And then you have like the best friend, and Zhao comes in, and he's like,
he's the intruder,
right? Well, like he's trying to build back up these walls, and like Zhao just comes in and like hops right over the wall aimlessly, and you're wondering like, is this character, gonna be the person that's able to like sort of rebuild the family, or
but even his like first appearance, right?
Right.
Like she even says like, oh, this guy came over to our house, but he knew where to go. Like,
exactly, right.
He knew the back door to our house, and like they realize that it's his old friend.
Yeah.
Like it's just a very kind of telling way of saying that he, knows the ins and outs of the house, and he just is able to go past.
Let myself in.
Let himself in, and there's no barriers.
Right.
There.
Yeah, there's already like a big level of comfortability with him and everybody that's there.
Like even like when he meets the sister or like Yuwen, like he already knows them, right? It's like it's not like a first meeting,
right
kind of thing. And
he literally knows everybody, like even by chance the wife, but still like I'm close with the whole family.
Yeah, I know everyone. And like they're all happy to see him as well. It's not like he's this like outcast kind of person. On the contrary, like the husband is the one that's kind of shunned, or like he shuns others, right? He's the one that's kind of wants to distance himself from everybody, even his own sister.
It's funny that's like, I mean, Zhao is supposed to be like the savior kind of like in the beginning, right? Where obviously the tone shifts completely once he's introduced and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously like with Yuwen, she's like, oh, like is this the Zhao that I know?
Yeah.
Question mark, you know? And there's like a lot of tension in that farce. But there's a really interesting duality of like how Yuwen is kind of dealing with Zhao and like what he means to her versus what Lien and like just like the family kind of sees Zhao, right? Like he's the savior of sort of that family, but then he's like the ruiner of her marriage.
Well, it's funny, yeah. Like it's like he could be, yeah. He's
Right.
like that potential, right?
Uh-huh.
He's the potential for good or bad, right?
Right,
Like
yeah.
he could be the savior of like the family by marrying the sister and kind of leading the lineage, right? Like continuing on the.
Not even that, like he's a doctor, like
Well,
he's there.
yeah,
you know,
but like
you can even-
he could be that, or he
Yeah.
could also be like the one who takes away the wife, and
yeah,
and it's that like
replaces
duality
Lien.
of it.
Yeah,
Where and then he's also his best friend, so like he has a love for his friend as well, and
right.
he feels inadequate in himself, and he doesn't know if he's worth it and worthy enough for his own wife, and all that like kind of culminating into him trying to kill himself.
Right. That went over my head actually. I didn't even know that he tried to commit suicide in that scene, and until like I went back. And it was like until it was made apparent to me, I was like, "Oh, that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why he fell ill." Like I just thought he just like,
He's dying.
yeah. I just thought like he smooched the pooched
Yeah.
at the end there.
But yeah, that's also part of his like depression and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So kind of makes sense at that point. But even poor like Zishen with like I said, he comes in as like he could be both like the bringer of like the savior, like he can really kind of destroy the family, but he's like, I'm tempted by my past lover Yuwen, and then like his buddy comes in, he's like, my marriage is falling apart. He's like coming clean to him,
Yeah.
and
He feels even more like
Yeah.
bad about it. Like, damn it.
yeah. Zhao's like, why are you telling me this now?
Yeah.
You're just making me feel more guilty.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a funny part too. He just like comes, he's like, yeah, like I think you would be a better match for my wife.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
damn it.
What do you mean? Stop
Saying these things.
Stop saying these things. And then the wife comes in and is like, yeah, he wants you to marry
Your
his
sister.
And he's
like, damn it. Even more problem.
I gotta get out of here.
That's
This
why
was
he
a
left
mistake.
ultimately. He's like,
Yeah.
oh no, I can't
Ah,
stay
it's
here.
It's too much. This family's crazy.
Yeah.
I haven't seen my friend in 10 years. I know why now.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh, what are the chances, huh?
Yeah. And then there's the servant guy.
Yeah. Who's just kind of there.
Yeah, this is basically kind of there watching the things go unfold.
Did he even know? I feel like everything just like, he didn't know anything at the end of the day. He was just like, oh no, he got sick.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he did, but he doesn't act like it. He was like,
Yeah, he's like,
whatever happens, happens.
he's the only clueless character in the story.
Yeah.
Even the sister was like, you still love Xiao, right?
Yeah.
She's like, no, yes. Even that was like that was like the last scene where he was like, he almost killed himself, but then he recovers, right? And then it was like, whew. And then his sister comes into the room with Yuwen while she's like basically kind of having a breakdown. And then she confronts her to come clean about it. And then that was it.
What did you think about the ending? Like how everything, kind of unfolded?
I thought it was fine. I mean, it was basically like ended full circle, right? Where they just kind of, how it began was how it ended for all intents and purposes. But like, I mean, you can get the semblance that like things have kind of changed, right? Like they've kind of gone through a little bit of an arc.
You sure?
But that remains to be seen, right?
That's the thing, right? It's like basically they're back to the square one.
Yeah,
right? He
exactly.
just leaves. He's, I guess I guess he's still sick, right? Technically.
Technically, yeah.
And the wife is still just there, and
That's what I say. Like nothing really changes. It's more of like with the experience that just happened,
yeah.
will things change?
Right.
Right. And it kind of leaves off at a question versus
And
an
the
answer.
sister's kind of the same as well. And
Yeah, she's like, you got to come back.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it was.
and so, yeah, I think the ending was quite
Yeah.
anticlimactic would be because, like, you know, you have that climax of when he tries to kill himself and he's
Right.
on the bed, and I think that's probably the biggest highlight, like the highest moment where it's like,
Sure.
is something gonna happen, right? Is anything gonna really change?
Okay.
But then, you know,
He comes out on top. So
the best friend kind of snaps out of it. He's like, wait, I can't be here anymore.
Yeah.
And he kind of leaves. And
he's like,
I
I'm
think,
causing too much suffering.
right.
So, yeah.
You know, there's no, I guess one thing that did change is the best friend finally like coming to his senses. And it's yeah, this is probably not a good idea. And that's like the biggest thing that kind of changes from like the whole movie. Like in the beginning, he kind of had like a wavering thing. But by the end, he's like, nope. And he's kind of, he's like, maybe I'll come back next spring or something like that, right? He says.
quote.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, like, you can literally take, like, the first maybe 15 or half hour of the movie, cut out the hour, and then bring in, like, that last scene after they confront each other, and then it's like he's about to leave town. And it would be like just a normal visitation, right? Like you wouldn't know that the whole affair. Yeah. It would be like Zhao came to visit, and everybody was like glee, and then they had a good time, and then he left, and that would be the story.
Except a lot of like stuff happened,
right? Yeah.
In between it,
and then you wouldn't even question like there was a whole affair thing going on.
But I think the movie itself, though, I think it does a really good job of kind of painting a picture of a woman's struggle of like, especially during that time and in that culture of having to like serve the husband, right? And being dutiful to the husband and providing in that way.
Yeah,
and
while
also
being like neglected of her own.
Yeah, of her own, you know, desires and hopes and wants and stuff like that. And I think the movie does a pretty good job of like highlighting that, like highlighting the woman's issues and her problems that she might face in that way. And yeah, like overall in that way, I think that the movie does have, you know, a lot of relevance. Like, you know, we talked about how like it felt like nothing happened, but I think in terms of like emotional progress, I think there was a lot like that was going on there. Yeah, like it is very theatrical, and so it just kind of feels like, oh, like it's just kind of playing on that. But I think overall, I think it does really paint a picture of like a woman who's kind of stuck with this man who is unable to like snap out of his own like, you know, guilt or his own
like state of mind.
State of mind and doubts and failures of like, and he's only thinking about the past of like, you know, his glory, his family's glory days, right? And now he's kind of ruined and he's not able to, you know, get out of that. And the woman who kind of is stuck with that man and seeing the prospect of another successful man coming in to the household, and he also happens to be somebody she loved before and
of interest.
And all of that kind of coming together, I think really kind of makes for a compelling story, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like that's what really sets this movie apart, and it's really interesting to see like it being like it's all in the perspective of the movie. Like I said, it's within Yuwen's perspective, and like having that POV throughout the movie is really what makes the movie.
Yeah, I think the voiceovers add a lot to the movie.
100%. Because it's like you said, it's like a lot of it's like in the beginning, because a lot of what even she's narrating is like the plot, like her just explaining, like in the beginning, right? She's like, I go and get medicine, and I go to the store, I do this. She just kind of like monotonously like, this is like my day-to-day life and it sucks sort of thing, you know? With a bit of like, kind of like emotional disdain with like her husband, like this kind of marriage is falling apart sort of thing.
It almost feels like she's like writing it on her diary, right?
Right,
like in her diary about like, what she did and where she's going and like, this new person came and his name is Zhang, but I hope it's not that Jiang, right? Like,
Right,
she
like-
like is all like, you know,
Yeah.
saying all those things in her voiceover, and really kind of creates that idea of like, oh, she has this internal like life in
Right,
her
yeah.
that like outside she can't portray, right? She can't express.
Because there's a very clear difference too of like what you're watching and her actions, especially when like leading up to when she meets Zhao. Because I mean, we see Zhao and Liang interact before she knows that there's a visitor coming, and then through like their narration, we see that like she's kind of like beginning like flustered, and she's like, "Oh, is it this person?" And we see that something that's up. But what we're watching is like she's just like needling away, and then like
like she wears her new like clothes, and
right,
is
right.
like, oh, like you know, I wore my new clothes, and making sure that, you know.
But she's still like
comes.
kind of like in like wife mode a little
Yeah,
bit, right? Like
yeah.
the Huang comes in and is like, yeah, like the young master asks if you could like cook up like the chicken dinner. She's like, yeah, I'll do it. That's cool. That's fine, you know. But internally, she's like, is it him? Is it not him?
Yeah,
like you know,
like right before she actually sees him.
right?
Yeah,
And so there's a lot of like development there, and then even like to the latter half, like once Yuwen and Zhao kind of start to talk a little bit more, and like the temptations start to brew a lot, and like their interactions kind of become more and more heated, that like the narration part of her, like the internal part of her, starts to kind of like manifest within her, right? Like now we see her being more aggressive in the scene where like she's visiting him in the night, and like she's kind of like trying to seduce him and things like that. Like once we get to there, there's hardly any narration, right? Because it's kind of like now, like, yeah, she is that person, right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to kind of see like there's that progression that happens, you know.
A lot of that like pent up, like, you know, unable to express is portrayed through the voiceover in the beginning, whereas like, you know, as it progresses and then she becomes more bold,
right,
it kind of, that voiceover kind of fades away, and then her actions kind of speak for themselves.
Right, yeah. And just like we see a lot of things that she's like explains that she kind of struggled with beforehand. We just kind of like see happen in like later scenes, like especially with Lien. Like they have a lot of scenes that between them, it's like Lien is like kind of realizes now that he's like lacking as a husband, and now he's like trying to be more of like caressing and loving and like seeking after her, and she's like, you know,
why are you doing this to me now?
Yeah.
Stop it.
right. You know, and so it's like we're kind of like seeing the conflict happen versus like requiring like the narration of it, you know. So it's like that part of it becomes sort of useless by the end, or it's like it's not a tool that needs to be done anymore, right? So as she becomes more involved. So hey, you know, who knows? Maybe they did end on a better note. Well,
yeah. Overall, I thought it was a pretty interesting movie. Definitely liked it. You know, like, yeah, I really liked it in terms of like watching it in perspective of like making a film, and if I prospect of making a film, and like I just like the fact that it really was a small location, and like only 5 characters, and yet like they're able to create something that is visually good, and also the story was interesting, and the characters and the suspense, not the suspense per se, but the tension between the characters, and you know, the characters don't feel like they're just, you know, a caricature, but they really kind of feel like they have different sides to them, and you know, it's not like, oh, I hate my friend now because, you know, but like there's like layers to their emotions and layers to the feelings that they have for each other, right? Like, Yuwen isn't just like, oh, I hate my husband now, right? It's not like that. But she has this struggle between her, you know, whether it's love or you know, loyalty or whatever. Like she has some kind of feelings towards, you know, Liang, and also Xiao. She has feelings for him, right? Obviously, and the struggles with maintaining and having those two different things within her, I think was like interesting and fun to watch.
It's got depth, so it's like these characters feel like people. Like,
Yeah,
versus
even
like,
even the best friend, right?
right.
He is his best friend, and he wants to be a good friend to him, but also has this temptation and all that.
Yeah.
So it's fun seeing that, like, coming.
I'm trying to save your life, but you're making it really hard.
If you're dead, then she's a widow. Then we got a new story here.
Dun, dun, dun. What was that scene? She was like, they're like, what are we gonna do? And he was like, it would never. He was like, either we leave together or I leave. And she was like, or my husband dies. Dun, dun, dun. And she was like,
and then the little sister's like, please save my brother. He's like, damn it.
damn,
You're a doctor. You can save him.
you can do it.
It's like, oh no.
Let him die.
You're putting me in such a predicament right now.
Let him die.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's a rough life. Rough. Yeah, overall, I definitely kind of enjoyed this movie. It's interesting to kind of like see what you can learn every time you watch something like that. Like again, we just like, especially for me, it's like a lot of like even like the editing, like how they're able to kind of like splice from scene to scene, and it's like you have again like so many limited resources. Like what do they pick and how do they kind of cut it together? I thought it was interesting that there are like cutaway shots in the movie too. From like there'll be like a scene happening, and then there'll be like a cutaway shot of like another character doing something, and then they go back. And it's like, oh, you can kind of afford to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And interesting, like, how that's kind of placed and things of that nature. So, yeah, overall, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed, like, kind of, like, looking a little deeper and seeing, like, the circumstances of the movie and, like, the times that it was made and how it was made. Apparently, this is, like, nominated the best movie in Chinese film archive, right? So... in 2005, the China Film Archive, so they held like a sponsored poll with like a bunch of critics and stuff. Out of like 100 movies, Chinese films, what would be like the best? And then this was nominated as number 1.
Wow.
And so the movie actually wasn't a hit at the time it was made in 1940. Actually, it kind of got lost, like put away. I mean, it was very controversial for the things that we kind of explained at the beginning, especially because like it was made during the Chinese Civil War, I believe, and it was a lot between the Communist Party and the Nationalist Party, and just like as the Communist Party was kind of more coming into power, like this was like sort of anti-ideology.
No.
Right? They're like, get that out of here. We don't. No. So the original print is still around. Actually, it's in the China Film Archive, but it was put away for a while. And then it got reprinted as a new print like in the 80s. And then that's when like it kind of resurfaced and gained a lot of traction as like, I guess people were rediscovering the movie.
Yeah.
And then kind of like everything else happened after that. But what else do I have? There is a remake of this movie too.
Really?
Do you know that? I don't know when it came out. In 2002, there was a remake of this movie, directed by Tian Zhang, and it's called "Springtime in a Small Town."
Wow, they added time.
Springtime in a Small Town. Yes. This one is in color.
Oh.
Pretty crazy.
It'd be cool to see what are the differences. I like how they kind of...
Yeah, it's not a 1-for-1 remake. There are shot differences. Obviously, it's like in color as well. I heard that, I mean, from what I could like heard and like see, like Tian did like a lot of his kind of own choices and kind of like brought his own like perspective or portrayal of like telling like the drama and like just like portraying loss and like the affair and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of there's a lot of shots that are kind of like different. Like I hear like the boat scene was actually done in like one take versus being like cut together in that section. So there's like liberties taken, but it would be interesting to kind of see like the differences in his perspective on remaking this movie.
Yeah.
So 2002. I mean, that's not too old. Not like
18
years.
20 years ago.
Oh shoot. Yeah,
That's
never mind.
old,
That was
dude.
That was old now. Yikes.
Yikes, that's old. Damn.
They removed Yuwen's voiceover in the remake.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think that's
interesting.
that's the most criticized point, but other than that, I think it was kind of praised. So anything else? I think that's kind of it.
Yeah.
What are we watching next? That's the better question.
We're watching.
It's gonna be black and white.
What are we watching?
It is The Housemaid.
Oh yeah, The Housemaid.
Dun dun dun. This is a Korean film directed by Kim Ki-young in 1960.
Wow. Old.
Just like you.
That's 62 years old. 63, 62.
I don't know. My math is not math.
Wow.
There's a 2010 The Housemaid. That's not the one we're watching.
No.
Oh, you can rent this from Amazon or Apple TV, it says.
Cool. Sounds like a movie to watch.
Is this a famous South Korean classic movie?
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't
What
watched
do you mean?
it clearly, so.
It's supposed to be reliable here.
Nope. Unreliable.
Wait, is this another like affair movie?
It probably is.
I think so.
Just judging from the title of the movie.
Yo.
Housemates usually have some kind of
Rip.
like,
Like
affair with the
Yeah.
owner, and the wife comes in and
very like
issues.
seductive
Yes.
like vibe going on over there.
I've never watched this movie before, so.
See, it says piano composer and his pregnant wife needs extra help around the house, so they hire a housemaid whose precociousness soon gives way to troubling behavior.
Okay, well, there it is. There it is.
Tensions between her and Dong-sik lead to an affair. Yikes. And while the pregnancy ends in this is spoilers, bro.
Why are you spoiling the movies, man?
This is rip. Okay, forget everything I just said. Man, Google is trying to get at me, bro.
Yeah, well, anyways, since we already know what the movie is now,
Let's
let's just skip to the next one.
yeah. All right, so the third movie on the list is So The Housemaid will be next week. So I should have named this the Affair series.
No, man, the third one doesn't have an affair.
We don't know this.
I do. I watched it.
You watched it?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Third one is The Book of Fish. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that one.
Excuse me.
No affairs.
You sure?
No affairs. A very different movie. Very different.
Well, the first half of the series is
The fourth movie is, I think, Springtime Again.
late spring.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It is, yeah. That's an O's movie. That's not an affair.
You never know. Anyways.
Family is,
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, we'll see
Housemaid
you
next week.
Yes. And a quick shout out to our Patreon page. If you want to check out any episodes earlier, you can subscribe to the tier and get some of that, and also get a bonus episode every here and there as well. Other than that, we will catch you next week. Peace.
Bye.